And rather awkwardly, it seems that no human being can ever really grow up sane unless it's been loved very deeply by somebody else for a number of years in its early life. But we're still learning what good parents might actually be like. How good were yours? Here are 8 principles of good parenting that you might use to grade them. A loving parent gets down to the child's level, at times literally dropping down to their height when addressing them, in order to see the world through their eyes. They understand that a very young child can't easily fit in with external demands, and that in the early days they must be prioritized and placed at the center of things, not in order to spoil them, but in order to give them a chance to grow. Loving parents understand that their young offspring's lives revolve around details that are, by any adult measure, very minor. Toddlers will feel enormously happy because they can dig their nails into some putty, or have a chance to whack their spoon into some peas with energy, or say "bah" very loudly. And they will feel extremely sad because Pet Rabbit lost one of its buttons, or a page in a favourite book now has a tear in it. The good enough parent feels sufficiently resourceful inside not to hold it against the child that it's making a very big deal out of so-called nothing. It will follow the child in its excitement over a puddle and in its grief over an uncomfortable sock. It will understand that the child's future ability to be considerate to other people and to handle genuine disasters will be critically dependent on having had an ample fill of sympathy for a range of age-appropriate sorrows. A loving parent will know how to put the best possible interpretation on behaviour that might seem to others to be pretty unfortunate. The small child isn't just a troublemaker, but it has of course been very upset by the arrival of a sibling. It isn't antisocial, but it does find a small circle of familiar people especially soothing. It isn't a nightmare, but it does surely need to go to bed pretty soon. This capacity for imaginative, kindly explanations will go on to mould the workings of the child's own conscience. It will learn the art of self-forgiveness. It won't have to torture itself for its mistakes. It won't suffer the ravages of self-loathing, or ever, when it messes up badly, be tempted to take its own life. The loving parent will feel sufficiently sane to allow a child to be a bit weird for a while, knowing that so-called weird is actually part of normal development. It won't get flustered that the child has decided to pretend it's an animal, or wants to eat only red-coloured foods, or has an imaginary friend living in the tree at the end of the garden. The adult will have faith in sanity emerging, and in the wisdom of exploring a lot of possible options before choosing to settle on reason. It will be able to remain calm over some intense tantrums and obsessions. It won't need to shut down irreverence at every turn. It will be patient around low moods and unruffled by adolescent surliness. The parent won't assign labels to the child that might fix it in a role it was only trying out. It will be wary of telling a child that it is the angry one, the little philosopher, or even the kind one. It will allow the child the luxury of picking its own identity. The good parent knows that children may well cling for a long time, and will never dismiss this natural need for reassurance in pejorative terms. It won't tell the child to buck up and be a good little man or a nice young lady who can make me proud. It will know that those who end up securely attached and able to tolerate absence are those who were originally allowed to have as much dependence and connection as they needed. There will be few requests to be brave at the school gates. A good parent won't set themselves up as an impossibly glamorous or remote figure, someone whom the child may be tempted to idealize and ruminate over from afar. They will know how to be present and very ordinary around the house, dignified perhaps, but also on occasion ratty, forgetful, silly, and greedily keen to have too much dessert. The good parent will know that parental quirks and flaws are there to remind a child to reconcile itself to its own humanity, and also eventually to leave home and get on with their own lives. A good parent will know how to appear very boring. It will understand that what a child chiefly needs is a source of reliable calm, not fireworks and excitement. It has enough of these inside its own mind. It should be there, in the same place, saying more or less the same things for decades. It should take care to be predictable and to edit out its surprising moods. The child doesn't need a full picture of every perturbance and temptation coursing through its carers' minds. The parent accepts that mummy or daddy are roles, not full representations. It should be the privilege of every child not to have to know its parents in complete detail. The good parent isn't looking for a balanced relationship. It's happy to give unilaterally. It doesn't need to be asked how its day was or what it thinks of the government's new policy on insurance. It knows that a child should be able to take a parent substantially for granted. The parent's reward for all their work won't ever be direct. It will arrive by noting in many years' time that their child has just developed into a very good parent themselves. Put simply, love is the considerate, tender, hugely patient behavior displayed by an adult over many years towards a child who cannot help but be largely out of control, confused, frustrating, and bewildered. All in order that this child might over time grow into an adult who can take its place in society without too much of a loss of spontaneity, without too much terror, and with a basic trust in its own capacities and chances of fulfillment. It should be a matter of global consternation that despite our many advances, we are still only at the dawn of knowing how to ensure that we all have the loving child